Hey everybody, welcome back to Burning Rome Rants. Yeah, do another one of these, but it'd be about something a bit different this time. I'm going to cover history itself involving academia. So, I guess let's start with the basic thing. As you all know, periodization of history, where we stuff things into like Middle Ages, Classical, Renaissance, etc. Well, there is a debate over that mentality, and this is how the academic history world works. There are two major groups, one called the lumpers, one called the splitters. I'm a lumper, by the way. Here is the definition of the periodization and how they view it. In history, lumpers are those who tend to create broad definitions that cover large periods of time and many disciplines, whereas splitters, the other group, want to assign names to tight groups of interrelations. Lumping tends to create more and more unwieldy definitions, with members having less and less mutually in common. This can lead to definitions which are little more than conventionalities, or groups which join fundamentally different examples. Splitting often leads to distinctions without difference, ordinate and fussy categories, and failure to see underlying similarities. With this, what we can see is how there is a bit of a war in history right now between the splitters and the lumpers. Most lumpers, by the way, are actually the historical authors like Tom Holland, which Sargon loves to talk about. He is a lumper historian. He's about the grand narrative of history, which is the common thing for lumpers. Which narrative history allows you to master the art of storytelling that lies at the heart of most compelling history. They're storytellers. They tell a story of history, and that's what they do. However, splitters are a bit kind of like the social science aspect of history. They'll often break things down to oppressed and oppressor with some Marxist theory thrown in. Most of my teachers, by the way, are lumpers. But they tend to split things up instead of actually talking about the reality of the situation. They'll just say, well, this person, you're talking about how great this time period was. Well, what about this little person over there that was oppressed? What about this person? So they break it down into class and class structure, instead of an overall arcing story that is being told throughout history with the good and the bad. And most lumpers openly admit the bad parts of history, the slavery, the war, the destruction. But splitters tend to focus only on those, thus leading to messy definitions and messy history that is about oppressor and oppressed classes. The reason I decided to talk about this today, primarily, is to show how history is fighting its own little civil war. I'm a lumper historian. I tell stories like a lumper, and that's how I view things. But a lot of people in academia are splitters. So you have the Marxist view of history with an infestation into it, which is like you could see the evolution of cultural Marxism within that and how they view each history between oppressed, non-oppressed classes, whether it's bourgeoisie, proletariat, or all the way to race and gender, like we see in most social science courses. But it's fair to note that there is a bit of a civil war going on in history, and like I said, this is not a long video, but it's just a distinction I wish we need to talk about more involving history and how academic discipline of it goes. Because if we don't, well, then we can't realize the problems that are happening in it. So, at the end of the day, we have to say that history has a bit of a problem and a bit of its own civil war. I wish Sargon would talk about it more. But if you'd like this, let me know, and I may go into a deeper detail about splitters and lumpers and the various different people who I'd recommend. Tom Holland is one of them, by the way, as a really good lumper historian. Alright, guys, I'll see you next time. Hopefully this was a bit more cheery.